Okay, it is 9 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Deborah, roll call, please.
Certainly. Ring.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Castile.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
Jennings.
Here.
Singh.
Here.
And Byron.
Here.
Next is the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting on March 24, 2026. Any changes, additions, deletions, or changes? Seeing none, they're approved. Deborah, anything on the member forum?
So there's no one in person and double checking Zoom and no one over Zoom. So that concludes the member forum.
Okay, we're going to jump down to new business 8B. And
so if I can give just a little introduction to this item, as you all recall, this year we took the step to move our insurance placement from a 1/1 renewal date to a 6/1 renewal date. And to accomplish that, we worked with the mutuals on budgeting. We extended the existing coverage from 25 for the first 5 months of 26. And now we're into renewal for a 6/1 renewal date, and that will then be our regular anniversary. June 1st is rapidly coming. So Gallagher and their team have been busy working on placement, especially for the tower. The rates, as we reported last time, continue to come down, which is good news. We had a savings on the extension, but then also looking at another savings to budget for the placement. But what we're really here today is to talk about the alternative risk program. We did have a meeting with the insurance task force last Friday, and then we presented to the president's forum for the mutuals on Monday, and they both concur with the recommendation regarding the alternative risk transfer, which Ken will go over. But we have some opportunities to take advantage again of the market, of our performance within that practice. So Ken's going to go over that today with, and then we'll highlight the recommendation from the insurance task force and the president's forum. So Ken should take it from there.
That squirrel right there.
Oh, cute.
What's that? Oh, good.
You're good.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you all. It's as you know, for Gallagher, Rossmore is a very important account. It's always a privilege to get to speak to this group. So thank you very much. I don't have printouts. I have it on the slide here. So during the peak of the hard market, the property market going up year over year, we implemented a program called an alternative risk transfer program. It just suits Rossmore really well because, you know, for several reasons you don't have the ability, or it wouldn't fit really to build a captive. So an alternative risk transfer program works well. And why does it work well? Because there's a couple of things. It aligns insurance protection with long-term capital planning rather than the annual marketplace volatility, because this puts up $5 million of your primary limit of your property insurance. So each year you're not worrying about, well, is this guy going to renew, not going to renew? Capital efficiency retains a predictable layer of reducing dependency on traditional market. So when Rossmore purchased this coverage, they didn't know whether the property market was going to continue out of sight or what. But what this does is it locks your price, your rate in for a period of 5 years, which was great. It lended stability to the program. Governance control, Rossmore controls the premium, the structure, and the funding rather than reacting to annual renewals. Again, we don't know. Let's say, for example, Beasley, an anchor person says, hey, you know, we're out of residential, and so then we're stuck, right? So it takes away that inefficiency. So overall, the alternative risk transfer program has worked well so far. Because of what we're going to be talking about today, it's important just for me to kind of highlight this is the structure. Over on the left-hand side, you can see the alternative risk transfer program. It is $5 million. It runs from January 1st, 2023 to January 1st, 2028. The annual premium is, with taxes and fees and other things, it's roughly $3.75 million. And it sits over your deductible program. Above that, and it's important to note because we're going to be referring to the property tower. That's the list of all the insurance companies that go from the $5 million up to the $1.3 billion, which is a limit that you carry. Okay, so that's the property tower. And over on the right, it's just a mechanical breakdown that just sits alongside the tower. To dive into, just as a refresher, to dive into the ART section, it has an annual premium of $3.75 million. The insurance company keeps 15% of that as the cost of risk. The balance of that is up for return to Rossmore without, depending upon losses, right? It's your experience account. The limit is $5 million per occurrence, $10 million annual aggregate, and $30 million over the 5-year term. Policy term is 5 years, the natural question would be, hey, what if I have multiple losses in any one year and I blow through my aggregate limit? And there's a little picture of what happens over there. The tower drops down and becomes your primary insurance company. So it's not that you would be without any coverage there. So far, this has worked exceedingly well for Rossmore because of your capability to produce great results. You have a little bit, this is an older number, it's probably greater than this now, but you have at this time, it was $10.3 million in your investment account. So at this point, there's a couple of different decisions because London is looking at this. They're saying, hey, we're coming to the end of this 5-year period of time in relatively shortly. And so you might want to start thinking about what's going on. That reason, because of the timing and also the condition of the marketplace. So status quo to do nothing. The tower premiums for this renewal on 6/1, tower premiums are budgeted to reduce 10%, right? So you're going to see a 10% reduction in your tower. Personally, I think that is going to be, you're going to do better than that, but we'll just see, right? One option is to extend this program as it stands with the current limits at $5 million per occurrence, $10 million aggregate with a $30 million term aggregate. Or increase it, the limit from 5 million to 7.5 million, the ag goes to 15 million and the term limit is 30 million, or increase it to 10 million per occurrence and $10 million ag. It's important to note increasing ART limits requires Rossmore to retain more risk, right? If you're going up 7.5 million, from 5 million to 7.5 million, it could potentially have an impact on your investment account at some point. And as I stated previously, ART options all have the same $30 million term limit.
So currently, the program is set to run through 1/1/2028. And that is when the community would have access to that balance minus any losses. If we extend what's being proposed here in options 1 through 3 and renew, as it's stated up there, the program would run through 6/1/2031. So you're going to see savings in the overall program, but the community won't have access to that experience account. You'll be pushing it out and hopefully continuing to see it grow, which would give you then options at that point to do more self-insurance, expand the program, pull the money out, so forth. But here's the next kind of round.
So the status quo, you would see no reduction in premium for the ART program. The premium would renew at $3.75 million. What is the impact on the tower? Overall, the tower has the rates for that portion of the property insurance has reduced since January 1, 2025 by 20%, roughly 20%. And that's an decrease of $3.1 million. Option 1 to extend the ART, you would see a reduction of $1.45 million in premium. The new premium would be $2.3 million versus the 3.75. So keeping it at that limit, the 5 million per occurrence, 10 million aggregate, we're not changing anything. The tower is going to go over the same limit that it's gone over before, right? And so we're not going to see any reduction on the tower. Again, the same decrease has taken place, 20% since 1/1/25. Option two, the premium would reduce from 3.75 million to $2.6 million, a savings of 1.15 million. And because the tower is going up, right? They're not sitting over $5 million anymore. They're sitting over 7.5. So those primary five, you know, AIG and Beasley and Zurich, they say, well, now a single loss has to penetrate $7.5 million before I get there. So I'm going to give you a rate decrease. That rate decrease we estimate to be, it's going to be roughly pretty close to $366,000, right? So you've got the difference between keeping it at 2.3, keeping it $5 million per occurrence, or increasing it from to 7.5. Yes, there is a $300,000 difference, but you're looking at a $366,000 additional decrease in the tower. Kind of offsets that delta there.
So the marketing task force and the president's forum is recommending option two, the moving up to 7.5, 15. And you have a annual savings and premium of the 1.15, but when you add that to the tower decrease, you're both in the range of 1.5 for the option. But what it's really doing is planning for the future. So we're locking in a rate and we're providing that security of now the 7.5 instead of 5 for when the market begins to head back up again. And we know it will because it does all the time. So you're setting yourself up for at least 5 years of good coverage, lower rates, and if things start to go up, you're banking that 7.5, so you're starting to incrementally increase. And then when we get to 2031, when it expires, you'll have a significant, hopefully, bank, and you can even look to move it up or do different self-insurance. Sorry.
Also, I guess sounds like a great plan in terms of long-term risk reduction. So you're saying, so two questions. One is that the rate is binding, right? I think you're saying locked in. And the second question is that when 2031 comes, you have full access to the reserves, which are safe?
So yeah, at the end of the term of the program, you have access to what the balance is in your experience account, of course, minus any reserve for losses.
So the option that I don't fully understand is the option where this expires in 28. We have access to the 10 million potentially that's sitting there. And then I'm assuming you go back out and you build another tower, you do another art program, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't know what those premiums would be under that scenario.
Right.
Because that gives us access to the 10, whatever 10 million is, instead of moving that, putting that down the line another 3 or 5 years. That's the advantage of what she's saying.
That's what I'm trying to understand then what happens to a premium, in that scenario.
So that's kind of the gamble a little bit is we don't know where the market will be when this expires. So a year and a half basically from now, will the market be heading back up? Will it be back down? This provides a good savings with some stability, but at the end of that period, perhaps the market has gone down more and we're in an even better place. It's just hard to know that crystal ball. What would happen with the funds if we did then pull out the money is a variety of options. It's the mutuals money for the most part. RWC has a small piece of it. It would go back to everybody based on the allocation of how they paid in. The per door kind of, or per manor formula. And then the mutuals would have a decision on what to do with that money. Or you could retain it and create your own self-insured fund for the first 5 million layer. There's a variety of options of what you could do with it. Continues to grow. We're earning interest on.
Does it go back into that account?
It stays in the account, right?
What interest rate are we earning at? Do you
I
know?
think you said it was 4%.
Yeah, 2.85 or something like that.
Is that a
3.85.
guaranteed
It's
amount?
probably based on market,
Yeah, I can't answer, I can get you that answer though. I don't know that answer.
So-
Do you answer your question about in the future? When you're weighing that, you're saying, well, we'll just go buy another ART, right? People tend to focus on the natural disaster that they're most prone to have, right? Everybody would focus on the West Coast, they focus on wildfire. But what really drives this is wind anywhere in the world. So you're having hurricanes or you're having, which is kind of really growing off the map here, is convective storms, right? Tornadoes are really coming about. And so that's what drives the premiums, right? So we're looking at a much lower premium now, you know, at that end of the period of time. It's not gonna be an option for you to not buy it, because the tower they're over, on Rossmore, we're over 5 million, or we're over $7.5 million. So it's not like you can go back to a $250,000 deductible. You're gonna have to buy it, and you're gonna be subject to the winds of the market at that point.
So in terms of since you know the market very well, as a follow-up to what Kim is asking, so in long term, the risk is gonna go up and the premiums are gonna go up, right? I mean, short term, they might fluctuate, because environmental risk is going up.
Yeah, I mean, all predictions are that the market, the world of risk for property is not going to necessarily get increasingly better.
The other part of the discussion from the task force and the mutual presidents was that if you did extend with the option 2, you're seeing basically a 1.5 million savings, but then you also have the 10% further reduction that Gallagher is estimating on top of the 10% reduction that was realized with the extension. So to budget, you're saving quite a bit, plus the 1.5. The funds from, if we did cash in the ART, the task force would want to recommend that those go towards hardening projects or a new program rather than just a refund to members. So if you're looking for those funds, if you do take the option, there's still significant savings to budget. So if mutuals kept their budget more or less flat, they would have access to resources that could be used for various projects, hardening type projects.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I think the key point for me is understanding how this can affect the mutual's benefit or not benefit. And so give me a quick idea, who's on the task force from a mutual point of view? Who are those members and how do they communicate with their boards? Do you know?
So the members of the task force, Cheryl is our representative, and then the task force is made up of combination of mutual presidents and mutual representatives that have pretty significant background in the insurance world. They then report back to the mutual presidents and the mutual presidents back to their boards. So they have empowered the task force to work on the overall program, make recommendations on behalf of the mutuals.
So the task force that are members, what's the feedback when they go back to their presidents and their boards and they say, here's what we're working on? Have they communicated back to you as to whether the mutual boards and presidents are in favor of going ahead with this?
So we presented to the mutual presidents just yesterday, and they concurred with the recommendation.
Well, that solves that problem. Okay, I just want to make sure.
That everybody's on the same page,
We're
right?
working on
Yeah.
the mutual as much, because they're paying for it, and the risk is
very
theirs,
much
and
so.
it's all this stuff.
Yeah, RWC is just a very small piece of the overall program.
Right.
So Jeff, one follow-up. So you said hardened projects for the surplus which might be there in 2031. So what are you exactly referring to there?
Throughout the program, the mutuals have been undertaking a number of fire hardening projects, from their electrical panel replacements to vent replacements to roof, I mean, a number of different things. this may, just because the premiums have taken a dip, give them some resources rather than needing to cash this in.
But keeping in mind, those are operating funds that pay for the
Yes, it
insurance,
would
right?
need to be budgeted appropriately.
So the surplus could also be used to self-insure with a larger amount.
When we eventually get to 2031 and hopefully have a significant reserve, then that's when you can really talk about, a self-insurance program.
And is it true that the 10 million that's sitting there now is not considered adequate funds for a self-insurance program?
I think if you had a loss in that 10 million range, then your ability to replenish it
Right,
quickly is where your exposure would be.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you could, with that type of capital, you could, or let's say it grows, right? If you get to $15 million, right? That's where you've got capital and you could build your own property captive, right? And then with the captive, you'd have fronting paper, and then you could buy reinsurance to hedge against that big loss.
and so my question is, 10 million isn't, in your estimation, isn't considered enough to really do that those dollars need to grow, which this extension would help.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it'll be an option at least at that point.
so it's not an option now,
Well, the program doesn't
It's not an
expire
effective
until
option?
Yeah, you can take it out.
2028. So, I mean, if you kept the money in there and it kept growing, you didn't have a loss, then you may be in that position if you did status quo. But you're banking on no losses and continuing to grow. Because it expires, it's status quo, it expires 1/1/28.
So it seems like it's a very good program in terms of establishing certainty for us and reducing risk in the long run. So who is, in finance, we say, we are not bearing the risk, somebody else is, right? So who is the underwriter of this whole thing?
Allianz.
And they are pretty solid?
Allianz?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're one of the biggest insurance companies in the world.
Also, sometimes even the
They're
biggest
good.
corporations can suddenly melt.
That's true.
The downside, the potential downside is premiums continue to drop and we've locked in here
Yeah,
and don't get the savings.
right.
Now, the chances of that, but if they're going up,
Well, the
it's a good
upside.
savings.
Yeah.
But we run the risk of not
Right.
getting it. And we don't get the funds now. We gotta wait another,
Well, you get the funds in terms of savings on the.
but you don't get the 10
premiums.
million
No, you don't get the
you
10.
don't get that till
No.
for another,
Well, 5 years,
another 3 years.
31.
There's a second component that the task force recommended, and that is currently our coverage limits is 1.25 billion. There is an opportunity to extend that to 1.5 billion. That keeps us at a little bit better than the 50% coverage level, but also keeps us trending with the 1 in 10,000 year event modeling loss. Which is what we've been kind of telling to the community that we're tracking as our benchmark. In order to do that, there is some additional expenses, but again, you're gonna see a pretty good savings on the tower, so it's not additional budgetary amount per se, but it kind of allows us to keep that coverage. So the committee and the President's Forum group also concurred with that, and the cost of that additional coverage was
$425,000.
about 425,000. Would bring our limits to 1.5 billion.
A year, yeah.
The other positive is it locks us in somewhat, not guaranteed, but when you start to see the market change, if you already have that coverage and you have the relationship, it's easier to maintain rather than to try and obtain during a hard market. What else was I gonna say?
That's, if I could just, so that limit is being offered by Chubb Bermuda Insurance Company, a woman by the name of Rachel Soros, who knows Jeff really well. And so they already put up $650 million on your program. And so what they're saying is, and this is the first time in the world that they've offered this type of limit. This is the first account because they like this account so much because you've done so much. So they're saying, we'll take that 650 if they want and put up $850 million. What that means to me, right, like outside of all the modeling that we do and everything else, they're saying, hey, we were so confident in the efforts that Rossmore has made that we're confident that their insurance limit is adequate. We don't see that they're ever having, your total insured value is 2.77 billion, right? We don't see them ever having a loss in excess of that limit, right? Because it's just kind of like validation outside of modeling.
That makes sense. I think insuring a little bit higher in terms of the property values are going up anyway, so it might drop below 50%.
And you buy it at this limit. Yeah. This price, I mean.
I heard something, I'm not quite sure where, that Freddie Mac and
Fannie Mae.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
yeah, we're looking at changing the 100% coverage requirement for communities like this. Has anybody else heard anything about that?
Yeah, they did issue a report and have made some adjustments. However, it's not to the 100% replacement value. We have resubmitted our application for a variance that would allow for mortgages up to 50% is what our recommendation, up to our coverage limit. What they did is they took out the requirements for roofing to be part of the calculation and
Yeah, the valuation of the roof.
They changed kind of the calculation of what 100% is. But it doesn't necessarily help us to the degree we need it to yet.
This roof doesn't cost 50%.
Yeah, right. No.
It was kind of, so if you take out
They're optional, you
the,
don't need them, they're optional.
you can reduce our valuation by then the roofs and by the interior walls in coverage. So that takes the valuation. We could take out the trust facilities out of our valuation. So it brings it down, but we're still well below the 100% level.
Yeah, as soon as that came out, Zach Phillips ran modeling for Jeff and got that back to him. I think the impetus of that is probably the convect storms hitting HOA associations across the United States and destroying roofs.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any effort at the state level to make some kind of a sinking fund?
I think the state's still trying to figure out the FAIR plan.
Yeah.
That doesn't
yeah,
really
they
help
have
us a
their
whole
hands
lot.
full.
Okay, are you looking for a motion, Jeff?
Yeah, so we're looking for a motion to recommend that RWC participate in those two recommendations from the task force and the 7.5 and 15 million extension for the ART and the additional limits up to 1.5 billion.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Also move, whatever it was Jeff should have said.
Do that.
Since you want to make sure that do you need that sufficient funds language?
I don't think
think
so in
so.
this
Not for
case. I don't
this.
think we do in this case.
Because
So you
it's not all
recommend,
our money,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how-
So the Finance Committee is recommending that is concurring with the Insurance Task Force and the President's Forum to renew the ART program with extend the ART program with limits of 7.5 million per occurrence.
the 15 million annual aggregate?
Yeah,
To
An
when?
additional limit up to 1.5 billion?
Yeah,
And we're extending the ART to when?
2031.
2031.
Can we get 2031?
And the second part also increasing the.
He did that, he got
Did
that.
that, he said that.
All right, so that's,
That's.
Adrian, I didn't see your lips move at all. You did very good.
Yeah, I
Is there a
second.
second?
I second.
Any further discussion?
Oh, hold on.
Oops,
Oops.
oops.
So Adrian, who was the second?
Me.
Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Any further discussion? If If not, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Certainly Ring,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Castillo,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Jennings,
Yes.
Singh,
Yes.
and Byron. Sorry. I get the non-voting ex officio except with audit and finance, so I apologize. And yes, you are voting.
Great.
It's unanimous.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is, I feel better about this whole thing.
It's a good- It's good news. I mean, in essence, this is a tiny bit of something.
Yeah, it's a form of settlement.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get back to our regular scheduled program. So next is the chair report. A brief announcement. Todd's out sick today.
Oh,
Yeah, so, but when we show financial statements, we had a meeting the other day, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna show it by, you'll see the statements, it'll be by category. One will be salaries and wages. And again, we talked about having a limit of 50K and 10%. If the variance between budget and actual exceeds 50K and 10%, because if it exceeds it by 100%, but it's $400, we don't care. For those that meets that, he's gonna be able to press a button and expand it, so we can see all the accounts that make up that. Then he will be able to look at specific accounts. If there's one or two accounts that are the majority of that difference, he will have that hopefully available for us at the meeting to tell us what it is. However, he's not here today, but hopefully we can do the first two steps, and we just may not have the third step, which is the detail for that. So that's what we're gonna try and do when we get to the financial statements. And the 50 and 10, those are points that we just picked out. If we
Right.
don't like them, we can change them,
all right.
okay?
See how it goes.
Yeah, see how it goes. So keep that in mind, okay?
What about on a year, that's year to date or
Yeah,
just
that's
for
year
the
to date,
month?
that's year to date, year to date, year to date.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't care, yeah, what's year to date. Okay, Jeff, any comments?
So just a few things. One, we've been talking quite a bit about the social sector solutions program that we're working with through the consultant group from UC Berkeley. And they are nearing their about 10-day window of completing their project. They are focusing in on our resales and escrow process and our collections process. They won't end with a new process that we'll implement, but they are putting us on a really, really good path and recommendations for improvements to those two areas. We're also working with the mutuals and the management agreement working group to review some of those documents as well. So good work from that group. The medical center kind of cleared an important hurdle just this week in terms of their due diligence time. We had some issues with the title report and a little carve-out piece that included a portion of Rossmore Parkway in the title report, which didn't show up last time, but we worked with the city and confirmed that it was indeed previously dedicated to the city. So that was resolved. The current closing date is for 2027. However, there are two options for extension, each one for 75 days. So that would put you at an outside closing date of fall 2027. If you have not gone on My Rossmore yet, it is live. That is the new residents website. It is full of information for RWC events, for the mutuals information, for club information. It is also where you log on to do your business, including the tea time reservations, recreation ticket events. You can also now log on and do manage your gate passes, gate clearance through that program. There is a support line, so if you're not able to get logged on, there is a support center because the likely reason is we don't have your correct email address, or we have a email address that doesn't match what yours actually is. They will help update that process. So If you haven't gone on, please do so and review myrossmore.com. And then rossmore.com is set to launch on May 1st. And that is the whole marketing website. And it would be up and live tentatively right now, May 1st. So check that out if you get a chance. That's it.
Do we have any numbers on the number of people who have actually logged in to use MyRoss?
We can track that. I don't have that.
Okay, Jeff, are you gonna walk us through the financials?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and pull
We
those.
didn't approve the minute.
Yeah, we did.
we did.
Oh.
That's all right.
So why don't we start with the RWC financials if we can start with those.
Consolidated.
So where are you?
So 6B18.
All right.
One moment.
6B18.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is, as Dan mentioned about the little bit expanded view for the variances. If you look under other revenue, that meets the criteria for the expanded variance. So what Todd has done is expanded so you can see now all of the categories underneath other revenue to see what makes up that variance. The facility usage fee is down slightly at the moment. And then the Creekside revenue, that is the lease payments under our agreement with the Golden Pear. We won't start collecting lease until the restaurant is up and running. So that's why there's a zero there right now. But that was not known when we adopted the budget.
Do we have a date for that yet?
Soon.
Soon. Same date, huh?
No, it is very close, and Ann will be talking about that when she does her update. The bus grant is something that comes in kind of all at once, so we'll do a final invoicing for that. And then the handyman income is just down slightly. So that makes up the variance for there. And then under expenses, if you scroll down, landscape maintenance currently meets the variance criteria. We have some tree removal expenses that went over a little bit. But then you'll see repair maintenance and turf maintenance. Those are all pretty seasonal type things. And currently we haven't incurred any expenses under the golf repair of tees, greens, and fairways. Again, that's more seasonal type. So I don't see anything of concern really within that. We just talked about, if you scroll down further, under insurance expenses, we did have some savings to budget due to the extension and the placement there. But then we'll also see some significant expenses coming up 6/1. So insurance is looking really good to budget overall. And revenue, there's, if there's any questions on any of the different billable services. So that just gets into the detail. So let's go then to RPM financials, 6B11. So under revenue, we are down a little bit. Main thing is billable services. The main reason is just right now the seasonal demand and capacity to complete some of those billable projects. But that's basically the only variance that qualifies for expanded view.
So I have a question. On the billable services, are those services to residents or are they billable to,
Billable to mutuals and to residents, but the majority of it is to mutuals.
Okay,
Like, so
so-
you'll see like this is billable services operating, billable services reserves. Those are both mutual accounts that are coming out of operating or reserves.
okay. And so are we billing residents for work that's being done?
We do bill residents for work that's being done if they specifically request it, but the majority of the time it's work for the mutuals and work that's done for the individual residents, they use outside vendor.
Okay, so I had a situation recently where one of the other directors in my mutual was told that we weren't billing individuals because the system wasn't able to do that. And I don't know if that's true or not. It did not make sense to me
It's not
based
true.
on what I know. So,
That's not true.
okay,
We definitely can bill the new FSM system. Actually, they can sign off that they're getting billed, because that's a big problem that we had recently was we would do work for a resident and they would think that it was the mutual's responsibility. And at the end of the day, they would get a bill and they'd be like, this isn't our responsibility. So now our techs actually have on the app an authorization form that the residents actually sign, taking authorization that they are responsible for that charge.
okay,
It's good.
thank you.
Makes sense.
So then under 6B2, the capital, I don't know if there's any specific questions within that program. I'll really read that on the screen up there.
Yeah. Guess the bank debt is about 5% a year, something like that.
Is about what?
About 5%,
The interest?
yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Yeah. The three are all slightly different, but yeah. And then the consolidated.
What number?
6B4. Any specific questions on any individual items? All right.
That's okay.
Like this better.
I do too. This is really good.
And then when Todd is here, if, for example, there is a specific question within any of those line items, he's able to expand quickly and drill down. So even if it doesn't meet your variance requirements for the expanded view that you see in the report today, any of those can be quickly expanded and reviewed. So he's able to do a much deeper dive with this committee. Probably won't as much at the board meeting, but for here, it's really easy to expand on any item.
Can I make one comment? I attended one of the committee meetings on employees and so on. The first time I went to it, it was very good. It would be helpful for me if we just had one chart as a finance committee to know how many employees we had and how many left and how many joined us, just to see what's going on with the employee count. I mean, do you care about that at all?
So we do have a compensation committee,
Yeah.
and that is a report that is regularly provided to that committee.
Right.
So it's within Assembly and it is available, but if you'd like a report included here.
I just don't know whether people look at it. I looked at it on Assembly and whether it's interest of anybody here, I don't know. But take a look at it sometime. They had another nice thing on that chart about looking at changes. It was interesting. Okay.
Okay, any other questions on finance, on the statements? Okay, Ian?
Yes, so I do not have we didn't submit the report. I was here for the planning committee meeting in April. And so usually that document will follow. But really the things which are active right now are the pickleball facility and the restaurant. So with the pickleball facility, everything has been going on track with budget. There have been certain change orders as we look at the different things specified to make sure we have the right materials, but everything is still well within budget, so that's being managed really, really well. As far as the restaurant, that too is within budget. The operator, Rodney Worth, he's close to expending the allowance, and then RWC has been taking on lots of repairs we've had to make to the facility. Just, the contract was that we provide a turnkey facility, and it was short of that when he started to come in and do renovations. One of the things that is kind of the last check before we can get the health inspection in there is the fire hood system. And there's a mechanical issue with that, which is the holdup right now. So we expect that to be repaired by next week. So, and once that is done, then the health department can come in for the final inspection.
Fire hood hours?
It is ours. It is ours, yeah.
What's your best projection for the pickleball court?
Excuse me?
What's your best projection for the pickleball court?
We have a meeting later today and they're kind of evaluating the rain dates and the impact to that, but I don't really have a new date for that just yet. I'll have one by the time the planning committee comes around.
Any other questions? If not, let's go to MTF.
Okay, so we did have a healthy March,
Yeah.
which was nice, and there is a revised chart in your.
I had already sent one
You sent one
to
too?
Deborah
Okay.
by the time we talked, actually.
Okay, so you see we had 58 sales, 47 fees, but then we also had 25 transfers with 5 fees for a total of 52. That brings us back a little bit ahead of last year. The new fee went into effect April 1st, so we'll see, did we have a spike for the run before the fee changed, or is this just a good sign that we're starting? Some early indications are that it will settle back down again, but we'll see how the market goes.
I know inventory, home inventory is high. It's very here.
Yeah.
It's very high.
There's approximately 108 units, I think, available. Any
questions?
questions, comments regarding the membership transfer fee?
Okay, I don't think we have any facility service manager update, do we? And no update from the planning committee. So no unfinished business. Next is the new business, the review funding plan for the Dollar Gateway Rockview Capital Project.
So if you'll give me just a minute here. Plug in.
Please do stop that one.
Windows.
Key duplicate.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so what I wanted to do here is just review, as I mentioned, the medical center is currently for sale at a price of $17.2 million. That is the primary funding source that we're looking at for completion of the major capital program that we unveiled to grand fanfare at the town hall. I will note we are continuing to work on options, and we'll be coming back to the planning committee and so forth. And more importantly, the community here shortly in May. But
does that mean it's back to the drawing board again?
it was never off the drawing board. We talked about an option, but we did talk about that this is the study is to evaluate options. So yes, there is we're still at the option phase of looking at it. However, we're still looking at a project in the about $18 million range, $16 to $18 million range. So how would we fund that? The main source of funding would be the medical center with a closing dates as early as April, May of 27, as late as fall of 27. If we look at all of the various closing costs and then the taxes for both state and federal, at that time, as we look towards the bottom there, paying off the loan balances that would be in place at the time of closing, 5/1/27, we would have net proceeds available towards this capital project of about $9 million. That will be adjusted somewhat as we finalize numbers, but a good solid estimate of around $9 million. Again, we don't have a final estimate because we don't have a defined project yet, but if we're looking in the 18 million as the high side, we would be having to take out a loan in the $8 to $10 million range. So that loan would basically replace our existing 3 loans. If you go back to our capital long-range plan, you'll note that our debt service is about 1.9 million. It decreases a little bit to each year, but in our current program, the debt service is 1.9 million annually. If we take out a new 15-year loan, we would be at about half of that in terms of debt service annually. So the beauty of this kind of opportunity with the sale of the medical center is that we're able to accomplish significant capital projects within our facilities master plan and our long-range plan, including the Dollar House renovation, addressing 800 Rockview, and improvements including food and beverage and other improvements at Gateway. And it won't impact our overall capital program. We will still be able to accomplish everything else that is funded by our priority list in the capital projects on an annual basis, as well as work towards other major capital like Hillside in the future. So I just wanted to introduce this. There's no action at this point, but for sake of, how are we looking at funding that major proposal that over the next multiple years, this is how we would work that.
Jim, just make sure I understand, you say we have 1.9 million in current debt service and it would go down to half of that?
About half is what we would estimate on a 15-year loan at around 5 to 6%.
But we're extending our term, these terms.
Yeah.
These loans would be paid much quicker, so that's why it's going down.
Oh,
So we're gonna look-
it's not,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
gonna-
a reduction in the
Overall
overall.
cost is just our
just because you're
annual
extending
cost.
it, you're
Extending the
pushing
term.
it.
We're going from a 5 or 7 year payout down to a 15.
Exactly.
I have a question, what's the new security for the loan?
So it would mainly be the membership transfer fee, and we're working with a couple different institutions to secure that. One is our existing partner with Mechanics Bank. The other we're looking at or working with Comerica to get a term sheet from them as well. They've reviewed all of our financials, the long-term stability of the membership transfer fee. So that would be the main security of it.
Are they talking about encumbrances on that flow of funds?
In terms of limitations on that, not at this
I mean, I know
point,
you're
but we don't
preliminary.
have a solid term sheet yet. But that would be an important
Yeah, right.
aspect.
Harry, did you have a question?
So I assume that the loans you're talking about are all fixed interest rates, right?
Mhm.
And we should also do a calculation in terms of, I know the monthly rate will go down, but my intent is the term will go up. So we should look at the total debt service, in the long term, in terms of what it will be.
So we will be, we're still talking at least a year and a half out. We will see what the market conditions are. We'll see further if we want to reduce this by available resources in the capital fund as well. So we may not borrow the full amount, maybe there's a number of different factors. Just wanted to illustrate.
Yeah, and we're not gonna borrow that money the first day of it either, given. that
Right, it would be a
It
construction
would be a
term loan.
construction term loan, which would take X number of time to do, so,
I think that's great. We look at all the options.
yeah, it's just a.
Yeah, this just gives you a,
Ballpark.
one of the things that continuously comes up is, will this impact, when you talk about capital for the community, will this impact the coupon? Is this funds that could go towards mutual projects? Is this fun? There's a lot of things that churn. So I wanted to illustrate, the funding for the major project comes from capital. These are not funds that could be used to lower the coupon. Those have to come from, operating expenses have to come from the coupon per the trust. They are not funds that can go to mutual projects and so forth. So it is really a opportunity with the sale of the medical center and with the payoff of our existing loans to be able to take on this project without impacting the overall.
There's no penalty in paying off the other loans early.
No,
That's great.
That's good.
that was it.
Any other questions? Go ahead there.
So this, besides this major project, I mean, over the next 15 years, what kind of major kind of things are gonna happen as well as this project? I mean,
Great question. So on an annual basis, we have our priority list that we present to the planning committee over the course of many meetings, as well as to the finance committee, and then the board over several meetings. And that is a priority list that includes everything from paving, machinery and equipment, building repair and maintenance, things like pool plastering, roof replacement, and the golf bridges, the lake liner, major events within the facilities master plan. After we accomplish these would be, Hillside would be your next major capital.
okay, so it'd be, I guess the next plan would be Hillside.
I mean, all the other stuff.
Then you'd have to go through a whole review about, do we go up, what kind of money is that, and how do we fund it?
Yeah, but all the other things.
Besides the normal stuff that.
Yeah, all his
we have
stuff is
the
normal. That's all
I'm just
normal.
talking
Yeah,
about, this is a big
Hillside's-
project. I'm saying, there's,
Hillside's
in
probably
15
next.
years, you're gonna have another big project.
Yeah.
Right.
Not just these
Probably
little ones.
Hillside.
Hillside,
And I
probably
wanna
Hillside.
know, how we would fit that into everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this allows us to be able to plan for that as kind of the next major.
Okay.
Yeah, sets us up with a loan that's not based upon the building outside as collateral, so hopefully it's set way to go.
I think previously Ed had showed the long-term projection, I think for 10 years in terms of the capital expenditure budget and stuff.
But Hillside is not actually listed in that
because
plan right
we
today.
haven't planned
So
what we
that's a
want to
big project. It doesn't show in our current vision of all these capital things.
But they have a long, there's a,
It's in the long-term
in the-
program, kind of right now it's in the beyond 10-year.
Beyond.
Dollar was in the beyond 10-year, but we're able to move that up with this program.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to point out one thing, because I did a bit of analysis on what the California Government Department of Services puts out a report every year showing construction costs for operations like us, cities, and people who are doing public spaces. And that index has gone up about a little over 5% a year for the last 10 years. What that means is, if you can borrow money at 5% or lower, then you're actually ahead of the game, rather than waiting to just a year from now, it's gonna cost you 5% more. If you do it now, well, yes, you pay the 5% in interest.
it costs you 5% compounded if you wait 5
Yeah,
years.
exactly. And so using a certain amount of debt in this context is really the smart thing to do.
So Jeff, I'm not sure I should ask this question, but I'll ask it anyway. So, so I think you have a pretty good handle in terms of the long-term capital obligations for GRF. But the mutuals are all decentralized and they have their own responsibility. So is there some kind of an oversight, at least at the macro level, in terms of the capital liabilities of the mutual? At least in terms of, good governance and help them in terms of their long-term projections too.
I'll turn to Jeroen to answer that, but it really is tied to their reserve studies
It
that
is.
they do on an annual basis.
Yeah, it is tied to the reserve studies, and we definitely have plans that have to do with rehabs that are on schedules, usually a 10-year rehab schedule. So we definitely have all those records and we're performing to them. We're providing budgeting every single year where we look for that year, not just that year, but many years in the future, up to 10. And with the new NetSuite system, we have Workday Adaptive, which works directly with it. So NetSuite does a really good job of telling us where we are today and where we have been in the past. And it marries directly with Workday Adaptive and it updates every night. And Workday Adaptive does a really good job of telling us where we can go in the future and providing cash flow plans and business plans. So that's really what the future is of the planning. And that's really what our next step of the implementation of NetSuite is.
So especially like in the co-ops, because they're large and they have much more liability for repairs and stuff in capital projects. So they are okay in terms of their long-term standing?
Yeah, if we wanted to look at one of their budgets, sometimes we talk to them, maybe go to a budget finance committee meeting, we can look at the budget and you can see they have millions and millions of dollars put aside. Like First Walnut Creek Mutual has over $20 million in the bank. And it's invested and it's there, but they also spend over $5 million a year on new appliances. Like they spend a ton of money on appliances. So they have a lot of expenses, but we definitely are budgeting for them well into the future.
Now, I actually was interested in that question. I reached out to Todd and said, can you give me the number? How much do they have in reserves? And it's almost $60 million across the mutuals. Whereas our capital reserve is only $6 million. So, the $4 million we got plus the $2 million cash receipt. So you kind of put it in context. It's like, okay, they have 10 times, mutuals have 10 times as much.
And it really is on a mutual by mutual basis.
Yeah.
So some mutuals are better than others
Yeah, for
at
sure.
having lots and lots of reserves and others, are doing assessments in order to take care of things. And those are all individual decisions.
Yeah.
But they're great at helping the mutuals with the budgeting
Yeah.
and reserve studies and.
But in the past, it's been a battle to see who could have the lowest coupon. And that's a horrible race to be in,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Because when everyone says, oh, I want to be the lowest coupon, show me the coupons. Let's see, or I want to be in the medium. What does that even mean? You need to budget for your operational expenses, whatever that is. And you need to budget for your reserve projects for the future, whatever that is. And your mutual is not the same as another mutual. I promise you that, even if they're right next door to each other.
So I know we can't tell them, and given the fact that Kim is saying there's a lot of some significant variation, are there like strong benchmark guidance for those mutuals?
Yeah, this
There's
strong
studies.
benchmark guidance really comes from the reserve study provider. So in the reserve study, it will have a statement that says, is this mutual or is this association financially stable? And will it have enough money to do operations? It's either yes, marginal yes, or a no. We do not want a no. If it says a no, that goes into the declarations and any new buyer sees that and says that, oh, this association does not have the finances to actually move forward without doing a special assessment. I'm gonna buy somewhere else, right? So it is a big factor for us. And we are constantly talking about never going backwards on your coupon. And even people that are like, I want to keep my coupon flat, we're like, realistically, it's not a good plan. We've got inflation that we have to deal with no matter what. So if we stay at zero, or if we don't have an increase, where are we cutting back? And a lot of them are like, well, if we get this great deal on insurance, maybe we can leave our coupon flat. And my recommendation always is, no matter what, we should increase incrementally every year, no matter what, because if we don't,
Yeah.
eventually it's gonna be because some of them right now are doing full increases and up to the maximum amount of the law, which is 19.9% of the increase, right? So if they have a $1,000 assessment, they can only increase it $200 or $199 legally without going to a vote of the association. So those are all things that we take into consideration very, very much when we're in the budgeting process.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, no problem. That's my wheelhouse.
That is one of our biggest challenges because the average member really doesn't know a whole lot of difference between the RWC portion of the coupon at $3.60 and the mutual portion, which is significant, but there's a reason for it because you're investing in your community, in your home value.
Your asset. And all the time people are like, well, why should I invest for my asset? I'm not gonna be here in 20 years. My response always is like, you have family that will probably inherit your asset. Do you want them to inherit an asset or do you want them to inherit a liability? Right, and so that's what I always say to that, but that's definitely a common theme that we get as well.
Oh, my decision span is just 1 year, so.
I wanted to ask, do all the mutuals use the same firm to do the reserve studies?
No, they don't. Right now, we have two different firms in the valley. We have Helsing Group and we have another one called FAI, thank you, Ken, which is a Gary Porter company. Two totally different spectrums of the service that's provided. Helsing gives you a 200-page report that says the same information 50 different times. And it's very, very detailed down to the nitty gritty. FAI is very much more high level. And instead of saying every single different type of appliance, they just say appliances. First one, like Quick Mutual, you're gonna spend $5 million on appliances, not $300,000 on garbage disposals, $400,000 on washing machines. You know, they don't break it. It's just more broader. And so some of the mutuals appreciate that, some of them don't. And some of them are going out to bid right now and looking at other possible vendors. We would really like to limit the amount of vendors that we have to work with. Honestly, if we have more than 3, it's going to end up just causing a lot of inefficiencies. But we're really happy with FAI. Helsing has gotten a little bit of a bad rap over the years, and I have said it and I'll say it again. I think a lot of that bad rap comes from mistakes that were made by my team in the past, not providing the information readily or not updating the information correctly. And we're finding all those issues and we're trying to work through them every single day.
Yeah, one thing we discovered in my project was that the cost factors, the unit costs on the Helsing study didn't seem to be updated. And so we were really off in our projections. If you go in and say, this is what it really costs to do a fence and all this stuff.
And that's what we always say, right, is that the reserve study is a great benchmark for us to start the process. When it comes down to actually finalizing the process, that's where we try to have some more boots on the ground, realistic approaches to what's going on. But that is also a work in progress. I can tell you that it's definitely an area where we can make some serious improvements, and I hope to do so.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, our next meeting is May 26th, Tuesday at 9 o'clock right here. We'll see you all then.
May will not be.